Guys, welcome to my back porch. This is our Party at the Patio season finale, season wrap up, and I'm excited. It was a fun season.
Yep.
So obviously you know this guy over here, Chris Taylor.
Hey everybody, but
And
we do need to introduce our film crew, the guys that have made all this possible and made all of our footage for your pleasure. And this is Luke and Adam.
Here we go.
You might
Bill,
notice,
Hunter.
recognize our hands.
Yeah, you
Each
might
of
recognize showing the drinks. Yeah. So Film Hunter Media.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, why don't we start it off a little bit? I mean, you guys don't have to go into great detail, but let's start off a little bit by you guys telling your story, because these guys have never heard it before.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, by the way, you guys are going to hear kids screaming, running around, being kids. We have one watching us right over here. We literally are having a party at the patio. This is all of our families getting together, celebrating our first season.
How many kids do we have here with us tonight? I know
you got how many?
I brought 4.
We've got 5
3.
between.
Yeah, I got 4
9.
boys. He's got 1 boy.
4, 9, 13, 16.
Oh, 16.
16 kids
Okay,
here.
so 16 kids here.
No, we don't.
16.
Matthew, yes we do.
We got a whole
16 kids, 4 wives, and a
we got a
partridge in
whole
a pear tree.
classroom
Yeah.
in your backyard.
We do, man.
We could field a soccer team with backups.
We could have 2 soccer teams
That's true.
Nice.
Man.
in different divisions.
Yeah.
And they're actually relatively the same age, so it's kind of fun watching them. Do we have any of them over here on the
behind
trampoline?
you.
Oh, yeah.
Are you guys
Yeah, get
capturing
the
that
bouncing
on the
going
camera?
there.
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
man.
awesome.
Yeah,
All right, so what's the story behind Film Hunter Media? Tell them where you guys came from.
Yeah, so I'll kind of start it off. So my background is that right out of college I was a teacher, and so I taught arts and history classes primarily. And one of the classes that I taught happened to be a class that was a fine arts class. And so essentially what we did was it was centered mostly around film. And so basically what the class did is each year at the time they would take the whole year and make a feature-length film. And so the first semester was kind of getting a real general overview of the different kind of segments of filmmaking. And then kids would kind of pick what they want to specialize in. And so we'd have some who, after the first couple months go, hey, I want to learn the camera, or I want to learn the writing process or whatever it is. And so then the rest of that semester, they kind of do a deep dive learning that stuff and practicing. And then the whole second semester, you're filming and editing. And then at the end of the year, you get a big premiere. And so it's
That's
an
awesome.
intense
That's really cool, dude. I
That
wish
is
I was part of
super
your
awesome.
class.
No joke. Yeah, but
That's awesome.
it was actually so much work they don't do it anymore because it really was like
And this is at MCA?
right. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And it was a senior level class. So on top of your senior year, you're pulling all-nighters, doing editing, and I mean it was
Wow,
real
dude.
work.
Wow.
But in that process, and I've always been a film fan, just movies in general, learning the history of it,
Behind the
getting
scenes.
way into directors and like just being a film nerd that you kind of pick up enough that a transition into making it isn't too difficult. You just got to learn the technical part of it, and so I kind of learned the technical part of it in order to teach it. And in doing that, ended up making videos for friends who have companies or do little, goofy videos or whatever. And then kind of fast forward a little bit, and videos kind of from that point on was just a side hustle that I was doing while I was doing different jobs. The most recent job that I had was as a landman. So doing like researching mineral titles and stuff in oil and gas.
Right.
Nice.
And and still had the video side hustle. And my vision was I'm gonna be a landman. That's just what I was gonna do.
Well, because you're in West Texas, and
Right,
that's
yeah,
what you do.
It's
what you
good
do.
money.
Yeah,
It is,
yeah, it's good money.
and it's a way to stay in Midland and Odessa, which is where our family is. It's where we want to be, and so it's the primary industry here.
Yeah.
So we figured if we want to stay here, that's probably the industry we should be looking at.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, and the land stuff just kind of stopped. Everybody just stopped doing stuff and to ride it out, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, oil went negative in 2020
For the first time
Yeah.
ever.
For the
Yeah,
first
and
time ever.
It was like one day.
Now. Just that.
Yeah.
I know that's not a real
that
situation.
was oil futures.
Yes, I know.
I'm being a nerd right now
But,
for the
no,
financial
it's true.
industry.
It didn't,
We do have to
it's
kind of say
impossible
that.
for a commodity to actually go negative.
Yeah. Oil futures, go
especially an energy commodity.
Right.
I mean,
But
that's
we
impossible.
digress.
But
Keep going.
yeah, it made enough people think the sky was falling.
Right. There's semantics, but it was bad. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
yeah.
And so, what was interesting was immediately the land stuff stops. And the company was awesome. Like, they were great. And they said, look, we just don't have anything to give you. Call me. We're super cool about it. And said, like, we'll call you if we get something, but you might be looking to do something else in the meantime. You know, just kind of give me a heads up. Like, pretty much all of us are having to scramble and figure this out.
Yep.
And so we, at the same time, the different churches and different businesses in town also closed down.
Right.
And what happened is they needed content. They wanted to get their content out. They didn't want to just cease all things, but they wanted to put things in front of people.
Yeah.
And video was the medium because everyone's stuck at home.
You couldn't
So
have
that's
that
when you
face to
became.
face.
So that's when you became where I met you as the director.
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And so we just kind of like tripped and fell into full-time video as a in between until land picked back up. And it got to be productive enough and we were staying busy enough that when land did pick up, we didn't have time to go do land because we had so many video gigs. And
Okay, so if you don't mind me asking, Film Hunter Media wasn't created at this point.
no.
You were working for the church on a church salary.
Yes, as a part-time employee there.
Got it.
So I was kind of, and that was kind of another side hustle. I was helping them transition because that was before doing land stuff. I was working at the church, and so I was still kind of helping them with a few things. Had the land stuff and had the video, so it was kind of 3 part-time gigs. And really, land was the primary one. But
gotcha. The gig economy, and you epitomize that.
that's
awesome.
especially back then, man. And so, so anyway, we just like, you know, it's funny. The first like year and a half, it felt temporary until one day it was like, look, we're doing this full time. Like, it's not like we want to. It's like that's what's happening today. Is we are full-time video, and that's when we just kind of committed that. Okay, well, we'll commit to this and not worry about, you know, waiting on something else because the video stuff is fun. It was, we were staying really busy. It always felt like it was about to leave, about to go away, because it just kind of came on so fast.
Right.
Wow.
But so that's kind of when we had been doing it like a year and a half, and it was more than my wife and I could handle. So it was the two of us. And she handled a lot of the like not just administrative, but a lot of the like client interface, a lot of the phone calls because I was shooting and editing, and so she's really running the business to a large degree,
Right.
And kind of figuring out the money and like kind of
Financials, logistics,
exactly all the
schedule.
things that actually take to run a business.
You're like, I'm just the worker bee.
Yeah.
She's the queen.
That's right. No, that's exactly right.
That was a great analogy of it.
Yeah, dude. Now, most people aren't gonna get this first glance what you just said. So I really want you to drill down on that.
Okay.
You're still in your first 3 years of business.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell people what type of. Okay, so you're in your first 3 years of business, but I would not know that by the type of work you're doing and the type of customers you have. Tell us a little bit, not specifics, but just tell us some of the work that you guys are doing right
Sure, yeah, and it's changed a lot, right? Like we went after different markets, and really at any different point in time, I would have told you like this is going to be our niche, and then that niche dries up, you know, and so we pivot and try something else. One thing we really kind of chased for a while was real estate, doing really
makes sense.
in-depth real estate videos, photography, that kind of thing.
Especially during COVID.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that was really good for a while, and then it kind of all changed a little bit. we struck up an early relationship with the ballet company here in town because they couldn't perform in a studio.
Is that the people that do the Nutcracker every year at the Wagner Noel?
Right. So Nutcracker specifically, like that's a big deal for their company, right?
Yeah.
And they couldn't get into a venue to do it, and so they called us because I happened to know someone over there, and they were like, "Hey, is there any way we can do a film version of this, following COVID protocols and get it in front of people? You know, our dancers have been working for so long for this. We really need this as an income stream. It's just a big promotional thing for the company."
Dang, man.
And man, they put a ton of trust in us because we hadn't done anything on that scale yet.
Right. So that was
baptism by
kind
fire.
of a big break.
It really was. It really was. And that video alone has been what catapulted us into bigger, cooler things just because.
And what are some of those bigger, cooler things?
Yeah, so we've done multiple full-length documentaries at this point.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Anything we know? Anything coming to Hulu or?
No, most of it's like PBS type stuff. Like, and it's real locally, local West Texas centric. But we're on a TV show project right now. We just wrapped our first season of planning and pre-production for season 2. That one's called
awesome.
Keeping Good Company, which is kind of a lifestyle craft kind of show. And then
I remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of awesome podcasts. Mastermind Midland included.
Could be on that. Yes.
Yeah.
Add that to the resume.
That's right.
Aren't you guys doing like a news thing too, if I'm not mistaken? Or did I hear that right? Or are you guys doing like a news show?
We're not currently.
Okay. So that was a documentary then that
correct.
I Correct,
and we've done some nonprofit stuff for different things that were very news related.
Okay.
We did some work with Protect the Basin, which was like an anti-nuclear dump kind of campaign. That was
I
a big
know
deal.
about that.
Yeah.
There's a CPA on Wall Street. He's one of my client CPAs. I forget his name, and even that I'm not going to name drop him here on this podcast. I don't know if he'd like that. But he's made it a point where, like, on his CPA office, as you're driving down Wall Street, you see that no nuclear dumping.
Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't want that stuff here either, man. I was a nuclear engineer for 8 years. I know what the results are of that. And low level is not as low as they make it sound.
That's true. And it's so ambiguous, the language they use. I mean, it's shady stuff.
It is super shady. Like, I don't think there's a good answer for it. Like, there's just really not. And that's my personal opinion. Yeah. I mean, there's people that are way above my pay grade in that probably know safe ways to store it, but I don't want it in my ground in my neighborhood. I'll put it that way. Like,
it's just crazy they're going to store it.
Go find some place where the coyotes don't even live and bury it there. Like, there's those places in the world. Like, and nuclear waste is an issue. It's not a huge one, but I mean, you have to do something with it, and it takes forever to dissipate to nothing.
Well, and there's a huge financial incentive.
Just so you all know, we have a volleyball game going on next to us right now.
As long as it doesn't hit a camera, we're in good shape. So anyway, kind of fast forward, like I bet we were about 1.5 to 2 years full time, and I was drowning just with the amount of work that we were getting.
Good problem to have.
Right. No, I loved it, but I didn't know what to do. And so actually I needed equipment. And so that's when I called Adam, who I knew from high
transition.
School. Yeah.
Great transition.
Yeah, so where do you come into the picture, Adam?
Yeah, well, so for me, I've always loved telling stories. And that really grew into film. I was that kid mimicking Jackass, making videos in the backyard, hurting myself just for a laugh, just for a view. So that just kept going.
I can't picture it, can you?
Oh man, I'll dig up some videos for you.
I want to see videos.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah. So I mean, for me, like my parents, fortunately, were really supportive. When most parents are like, no, you need to be an engineer or whatever around here. Especially if,
material.
Yeah, but they're like, I mean, you're willing to do it, go for it.
Number 16, whatever they're on right now.
Yeah. We got insurance, it's okay, have fun, son.
So they supported me. They were like, hey, I mean, if that's something you're really interested in, go for it. So I went to college and actually graduated from North Texas with a film degree. And really didn't really know kind of what that meant after I graduated. I did a bad job. I'm kind of an introvert by nature anyways. And so I went to Texas Tech for the first 2 years to get my, you know, the normal stuff out of the way before I transferred. And I had lots of friends and family there. When I went to North Texas, it was just me my junior year. And then I got married, and then it was me and my wife my senior year. And so really it was just me, classes, and that was, I would come back and just hang out with my wife. And so it was there wasn't much of a community after I graduated. And so it was like, well, I don't know what to do. And at that time,
especially in West Texas, like,
absolutely.
How?
I mean, all my connections are here, and no one's doing anything like that.
No one does that here. Yeah.
And so,
I mean, people didn't even start
people
didn't even really start advertising and marketing here until COVID, because even though we've got a pretty good sized town, like everybody knows everybody. Everything operates off of a referral. Up until recently, because they had to find an alternative because that didn't work in a COVID world.
Yeah. So what year was this, Adam?
So 2009. The summer of 2009. And really, it was a bad time to get out of college,
that's
too.
A rough. I got out of the Navy shortly after. Man. The economy was terrible back then.
Absolutely. I mean,
getting a job at Whataburger was rough.
I mean, there in Denton, because it's so saturated with college-age people, young people in general, there's not very many older people living in that area. And so I couldn't get a job at Walmart. I applied there. I applied, like, at fast food restaurants. I applied at Chili's,
and
they were telling me, how much experience do you have? And I said, I want to do dishes or what, like whatever. And they're like, well, we got a list of people with years of experience that want that. And so my wife and I
you get to pay me less because I don't have experience. I just want to wash dishes.
I was willing to do anything. And so my wife and I, we worked at a retirement home.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Because that's the only job we could get.
CNAs?
As CNAs.
My wife got her CNA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we did that for a year. It started out at $7 an hour.
You couldn't pay me.
That's exactly what she started off at.
And by the time we were done after a year, I think we were at $8.50 or something. But it really, I mean, it was very hard work. I got lots of gross stories.
Yeah, you literally do.
It's crazy.
You literally do the shit work for all of our
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everything when I say that nobody else wants to do.
The stuff, you just can't even imagine. And so we did that for a year, and then my wife got a call from someone here in town that said, hey, we need someone to come, like, help our office out. We heard good things about you. Would you like that? And it was like, I don't have a job. You know, that I want to keep working. And I mean, it was like, all right, we go to California and just try. Or we have money there, we have family there. Why not? Let's try it there. And in my mind, it was, I feel like I can tell stories anywhere, and eventually I'll figure out what that looks like and is going to be. And so we moved to Midland, and I bounced around from substitute teaching. So that was the latter part of 2009.
Okay, so this is all in like the...
it happened pretty fast. So we moved 2009, 2010, I guess. I'm substitute teaching. I was on a crew that was flipping houses, and I didn't know what to. I was just doing whatever they said and hoping I didn't kill myself. So we were flipping. I was flipping houses.
Yay, demolition!
Absolutely. They're like, hey, make that wall gone.
And these are your lean years. These are the years of uncertainty.
Absolutely. Just doing whatever to survive, and then I ended up doing. Which still, it's weird to think that I did this for a living. I ended up teaching sex ed for years, and that was So
hey, did you do it with Kevin Dawson?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Kevin Dawson. Yeah. So
I don't know who told me that, but someone told me that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we worked together in that. So we have some fun stories there as well.
Oh man, that's
doing
great.
that, and so really, it was just the way I looked at it is. I'm going to write on the side because that's a big passion of mine. So I can still create stories, and maybe one day it'll see an audience, maybe it won't. But I'm going to at least pour into this and then do what I can to make money for my family. And
So how did you get? Okay, I know I'm fast forwarding.
No, yeah. So
he was teaching at MCA.
Right.
You were teaching at MCA.
So he leaves MCA.
Okay.
To go do
So
church.
work at the church.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
And-
now we're 2020.
No, we're like more.
Oh, it's been a while ago.
Yeah, I worked at the church for about 5 years, I think. So that
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I taught at MCA for 8 years. So they called me when
Wow.
he left and said, "Hey, we need someone to teach this movie class. Like
Nice.
you like that stuff, and you've been working with students, albeit teaching about sex, but you've been working with students and youth ministry and all that stuff. So why don't you come do that?" And so I jumped at it because I was like, finally I get to touch a camera and get paid. I get to hang out with like students and talk about stuff I love. And so did that for a long time.
Because the birds and the bees were getting old.
Absolutely, yeah. There's only so many times you can give the same presentation and get asked the same awkward questions from a junior high boy that you're just like, yeah, I'll pass it on to someone else.
You have successfully picked careers though that give you the best stories.
Oh, I got lots of stories.
Like it's nothing but material for films, right?
That's true.
So we can film a backstage podcast.
true.
That's why you have those stories.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I can talk about things I never planned on talking about for the world to see.
Yeah.
Okay, so before you go to MCA, in the spirit of that, give us the most awkward sex ed story that you have.
Come on, man. You're a storyteller. Tell us a story. That's a big question.
What age? Junior
just
high,
a really
high
good
school?
story.
All right, so
Is this
here's
like
a
7th,
good
8th grade
one.
or like 9th, 10th grade?
Well, we taught a program that was it didn't touch on sex. It was all about like values and relationships. Like,
okay.
just being a good person. We taught that from 3rd grade, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Okay, but not touching the sex part.
Nothing about sex.
Okay.
So
okay,
this was just like, here's what a value is, and just teaching
nice.
like, here's
personal value, how you respect other people's
so
values.
we started sex talk in 6th grade.
It's tied together, but
and that was a
Communication,
very light form. Was like, here's the body parts. Was 6th grade pretty much.
Got
and,
it. Got
hey,
it.
sex isn't a bad word. Teaching kids that, which is a whole
Got
thing. But yeah, so the craziest story really would probably be in 6th grade, a 6th grade class. I walked in to teach, and like, I mean, you really don't know what to expect every time. And so I'm setting up. We have a slide presentation that we do, and like, I've done it at this point for a long time. So I have it down, and I got my jokes and all this stuff, and I'm just ready to roll. And the teacher comes up right as the class is coming in, and all the students it's all boys in 6th grade. They're coming in to sit down, like 30 of them, and the teacher goes, "Hey, by the way, one of the students already has a kid," and then goes to their desk and sits down. And I was
How
like,
old are you in 6th grade again?
12?
I mean, my son's
my
in
daughter's
6th grade.
in 6th grade.
Yeah,
She's
11,
12.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the teacher
Is
didn't
that
give me any
possible?
more. At this point, I'm
Yes,
like,
it's totally
oh my
possible.
gosh.
Teach me sex ed teacher. Is
Yeah.
that possible?
Yeah, it's possible.
Wow.
So it took me a while to get into the groove on even teaching this. And at the same time, realizing like, this is weird because one student in here is like, yeah, I know this. And you know, to make it short, the class leaves and the boy who is the father stays behind and just wants to sit down and talk with me because he hasn't had anyone who's been blunt about this stuff, who's just cared about him as a person.
Wow,
and
man.
he's like, man, I saw it in movies from a young age. I just thought that's what you're supposed to do to be cool. And so he did it with a girl, and she got pregnant. And as a 6th grade boy, he now has a kid.
That's
And,
unreal.
Yeah, so,
wow.
I mean,
that is a crazy
well,
story.
I mean, yeah, so I guess it was 5th grade when actually
that's a reality
conceived.
for a lot of people now. Like
Absolutely.
that's become
12?
yes,
Sadly.
more and more. Well, you got to think like I'm not a dietitian or a nutrition expert, but like there's a lot of evidence that supports a lot of our American diet is causing puberty to happen earlier and earlier and earlier. And I know within my family of nieces and nephews, we're talking like 8, 9 years old. Puberty's hitting
No
for
way.
real. I'm serious.
No way.
100%. And so if puberty's hitting at that age, then that means that fathering or mothering a child's possible by age 10 in a lot of households in America today.
Like,
and that's
I know-
a real issue.
I know back on the frontier age, they would get married at 13. So wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it was a rocky one, but it turned out to be really cool. I mean, I was
Okay.
able to I stayed in touch with that kid for a little while, just talking him through things, encouraging him. So it was cool, but I mean,
it's unreal, man.
Yeah, it was a wild ride. Yeah.
Okay, so you get into MCA, you get into film class.
I do that
You've
a while.
left.
Yeah, and then he shows up one day and is like, "Hey, can I borrow some equipment?" And this year was a year, because it is so hard. Sometimes seniors were like, "Nah,
it's
not
elective,
doing that."
so they get to choose whether, like, out of however many classes, I want to take these. And so if the class doesn't get enough people to choose it, it doesn't make, and you don't do it that year.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
How the do you not have seniors who want to sign up for this class?
That's what a lot of
really
seniors who take the class are like, dude, why don't you do it? It's so like I still take trips with some of the guys that were seniors years ago that we made movies with, and now we're like friends, and we still hang.
Because it's a full-time job. You're signing up for a
I don't know many
it's crazy.
high school kids at any grade level that are that committed to create a full-length film.
It's definitely changed.
Okay, but what I'm getting is that you can do that or math class.
Well,
like, how do you not have a
math class? You can
class?
do 2 hours and be done. The other one, it might be all Saturday. We're not sleeping.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
We're going up to a
tremendous
cabin.
amount of work.
Tremendous amount of commitment.
It's a full-time job after school.
That's right.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
The kids that it's
like, do you
never
want
ran into a kid that said, "I wish
I totally would have been that kid that signed on to your class."
Right.
Oh yeah, it's a blast.
I would have loved it. Yeah.
But there was a year. So there was a year we weren't doing anything, and Luke needed equipment, and I was like, man, take it. Like, it's sitting in my office. You can use it. Use
nothing.
it. I don't care. Just go use it. And as we were, exchanging equipment and stuff, we just started talking, and we ended up going to eat lunch and kept talking more. And he found out, like, I was really into stuff, which we knew each other in high school. We just never were that close.
Right.
And so we found out.
Where did you both go to high school?
At MCA.
At MCA. Yeah.
MCA.
We're a year apart.
Yeah, a year apart. You're a year ahead of me. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so we just found out we had very similar interests. I was in a spot where I needed to transition, and really I was tired of just going, man, I want to do something in film. Maybe that opportunity will come at some point. And it was like, no, I'm going to do something. Like, I already had made up my mind that was going to be my last year teaching and stuff. And I had already started, looking out and trying to think of what does that look like. My wife and I talked about moving, all this stuff.
Wow. Dude.
And then we had this conversation that was absolutely a God conversation.
Super timely.
Yeah, he was like, dude, I need work.
And I'm underwater.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
Because you've got so much work.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like, do you want to do any of this? And clearly, Adam was like more than...
Are you serious?
Uh-oh.
Hey, we made it this far before the first cert. Hey, Webb.
Is that Jacob crying? Which one?
Oh, that's not Webb.
Jacob? Boy, it's always you. Go inside. Go inside. Well, stop crying.
I'm not bleeding.
But I'm not bleeding.
I don't need to go inside.
Boy, look at me. If you're going to cry, go inside.
That's great.
If I can't cry outside, where can I cry?
I'm not bleeding. That's awesome.
We're good. It's my son, and he's fine.
But yeah, it was perfect timing on all fronts, and just
Notice how the ladies left us?
I think they're hanging out inside.
Yeah.
They're straight up know we're filming a podcast.
Yeah, we got kids swinging from the ceiling. Kids that are not bleeding, crying on the trampoline, and the girls are inside, probably finishing off the whiskey.
Yep.
It just proves
The guys are fine. They're out there doing their podcast.
It just proves they're smarter than us.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
But yeah.
Guys, what an awesome story. So now you guys know about Film Hunter Media.
Yeah, that's our story.
And how this came about. This is so awesome. And what a great first season. I mean, it's an amazing partnership with you guys. Chris and I couldn't even think of better partners, seriously. Seriously.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of different media companies in West Texas, and I really appreciate the work that you guys do. I mean, y'all are super dedicated. You can tell you love what you do. Y'all are both incredibly skilled. I think that just the the outcome that we've seen from the episodes that you've already produced are just next level. I mean, they are truly professional grade, and
I think our audience will see that for sure, without a doubt.
yeah, and so we're truly blessed to have y'all as part of this journey with us for sure.
So that's the perfect segue to where I want to go with this backstage special. But before we do, it wouldn't be an episode of Mastermind Midland, Bourbon, Business, and Barbecue, right?
Yeah.
If we didn't talk about what we were drinking. And so tonight, you guys brought the barbecue and you guys brought the bourbon. So tell the audience a little bit about what we ate and what we're drinking in our red Solo cups right now.
Yeah, so we figured you guys have been feeding us and creating such awesome goodies for us. It was like, well, this is one opportunity we can maybe give back a little bit. So tonight we had just old school Texas pulled pork.
And it was so good.
It turned out pretty good.
That barbecue sauce, that was homemade, right?
Yeah, it's dirty. Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so
we
what
refined
was that
in, man. So we call it hog sauce.
Okay.
And it was birthed out of two different things. One was researching Franklin's barbecue and going through all of his sauce recipes and kind of figuring out what we liked in those. And then we ate at a place. We actually went to Franklin's one day in Austin, and they were out of food, which happens. And then up the road a little ways was another place called Micklethwaite Craft Meats.
Wow.
It was a little trailer. I don't know if it still is or not, but and they had the best barbecue sauce I've ever had. Which in Texas, the rule is you shouldn't need barbecue sauce, right?
Right, exactly.
But I love barbecue sauce.
I do too.
love barbecue sauce.
And I love meat that doesn't need it.
Yeah.
And then you add really good barbecue sauce, right? That's my go-to. So Micklethwaite's, it was, our sauce is totally just us trying to taste their sauce and re-engineer it.
The reverse engineering.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
So
all right. So can you tell us what's in the sauce, or is that a... Or is that a secret? You have to tell us.
There's really nothing like ridiculous in it. I mean, you're talking... It's kind of an equal parts ketchup and mustard sauce.
Okay.
And then a lot like and so...
Right.
I taste the vinegar for sure.
See,
but that made it yummy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so strange. Like, I love what you guys did, like, tonight. But being a man of the world like I am, like, y'all nailed the Carolina flavor.
Oh, thanks, man.
I mean,
that
Carolina
was Carolina. That
it
was tangy.
I mean, it was
North Carolina
the perfect
for sure.
Carolina
For sure.
pulled pork sandwiches. I mean, the slaw was perfect.
Yeah.
Right on top of the pulled pork with
right.
your sauce. Like,
Yeah.
I would rather eat y'all's than any barbecue I've ever had anywhere in either one of the Carolinas.
Oh, wow, man.
Like,
Thank
it was
you.
really that good.
That was good, dude.
But it captured that essence perfectly, and that makes sense because Carolina is really a strong mustard base.
Right. Yeah.
And so when you said that, I was like, yeah, that's exactly
Absolutely.
what it is.
Yeah, and so it's that's what's forward is white vinegar, ketchup, apple cider vinegar, and mustard, and then there's like some Worcestershire brown sugar. It's pretty light on both of those, and then some salt, pepper, and we use Cholula hot sauce as another vinegar hit. So there's like 4 things that are pretty vinegar heavy, but
but it's not overbearing.
It's not overbearing at all.
It doesn't just smack you in the face like a lot of the vinegar.
Yeah, you
hot
dialed
sauces
in.
do.
You've dialed in the percentages
It's
perfectly.
very well balanced.
We're really proud of that sauce, so I'm
You
glad
should
you guys
be,
like
man.
it.
Like,
Dude.
it's not traditional Texas
So if you
barbecue.
all fail in film, I'm telling you.
Well, we pair it with the pulled pork is like straight out of the old school Texas playbook. It's salt, pepper, and post oak.
Oh wow, okay.
And you get out of the way, man, and you just let the smoke do the
So
thing.
tell everyone what we're drinking.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
want to
it's just Honeycrisp apple cider and some fresh sliced apples, some cinnamon sticks, and then
And what was your guys' bourbon selection for tonight?
oh man, I should have brought the bottles out. 'cause I don't
Cooperstown,
remember
I think was the
Yeah.
You
That's
guys
what
got
I-
like 3 of them going on in there.
So I'm a guy, I can never make up my mind. Like I have some go-tos, but I mean I like trying new stuff all the time.
I'm
So
the same way.
when I went to the store, I was like, ooh, that one just won awards and I've never tried it. That one won awards. I'll grab those. And so Just grabbed a couple different. One is I'll have to figure out. I think that might be the Cooperstown.
I think that was what it's
The
called.
Cooperstown, yeah. The one we're drinking right now is straight from New York State, and I've never had bourbon from New York State before.
There you go. One says it's crafted in Big Spring, but I
Big Spring, Texas?
don't know what that
which
means.
is like 45
I don't know what the
miles away.
crafted part means.
But it's crazy because
That's not what Big Spring is known for.
I tried a little bit of it straight up, and it really gives me some strong Canadian whiskey accents.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like it tastes like any Canadian whiskey I've ever had. Like it doesn't make me think of a bourbon. It makes me think of a Canadian whiskey.
Yeah.
I love the apple cider and all that. This really feels like a fall drink, man.
And it just pairs with pork really well.
Yeah.
So.
That
sure
too,
did.
because apples and pork. I mean, you see that in every like medieval movie. The pig with the apple in its mouth.
That's
stuff.
what we had tonight. We had the pig with the apple in it.
Thank you, my son.
there he is. Hey, we have an assistant.
Here we go.
We have an assistant.
Yes.
Yeah, so
And make sure you get the tips.
So Timbercraft, Timbercraft is our one that is crafted in Big Spring.
Yep.
I don't know what
Pour me some of that
crafting makes.
in
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
Oh, let me try some of that.
I don't trust myself pouring it with another one in hand.
Yeah, man.
Tell me,
Awesome.
good?
Yeah, that's good.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's really not bad.
I would like to point out
That one's also
there are a
good.
lot more people drinking than just us four.
I think those ladies
I hope
hit the
so.
bottle, dude.
Because that bottle,
It's going fast.
Yeah, the Cooperstown's really good.
It
I
is
think
good.
it goes really well with the apple cider because it's really got a lot of strong, sweet overtones in that bourbon.
absolutely.
And
Yeah, that one did for
that
sure.
one does. I mean, you can smell the sweetness as soon as you pop the top.
And both of these are mid-level bottles to buy right now, and I would not be surprised if they're not going to be very long. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Good
again,
stuff.
the cinnamon sticks and the apple, that's a winning combination.
Yeah.
which
a
is, I
winning
think the
combination.
cinnamon stick that I can't remember which podcast it was that you made the.
I think it was episode 3.
Was it?
And
Was that with the pork?
We did it with the pork.
That's
yeah,
true.
and-
Oh, we
So,
did.
the
Yeah,
Yeah, because we
cinnamon
had
and
the maple
pork-
flavoring
yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
it's
Yeah.
maple. I made those Smoky Mountain Sunrises.
That was
Yeah,
good,
Smoky
yeah.
Mountain Sunrise.
Pig that tried to
Those
kill
were
you.
the
all were
strongest
inspired.
and tastiest drinks. Well, the bourbon I chose was 136 proof.
It wasn't
Was
playing
that
around.
the Rockstar bourbon?
Yeah, that
Bob
was
Dylan,
Heaven's Door.
Door.
Yeah, it was the Heaven's Door bourbon,
Yeah.
and it was 136 proof, and it was the biggest creeper strong bourbon, best tasting, messier.
Did I get
day.
wasted in that
We all
episode?
got wasted on that
Likely.
episode.
I think I turned to the camera and I was like, I'm totally buzzed.
That might have been the one everyone's thinking now is. Was that one out of focus a little bit? It's like because we're behind the camera. It's like,
Well, I totally don't remember what we talked about in episode 3.
yeah.
That might be because of the
Bourbon
bourbon.
business and
Maybe.
barbecues, right?
That's why we record them. You can
That was
always
about
go
the
back.
primary operating principle, right? Okay, well, hey guys, right now as we film this, we don't technically have an audience. We're about ready to launch.
Yeah,
we
that's
just
true.
had our business meeting over coffee yesterday, which I can't wait to talk about.
Yeah.
Yesterday, where we talked about the launch phase, and you guys are just ramping up. We're actually, if you're watching this, we're at the phase right now where we're beginning distribution.
Yeah, we've got one episode out on YouTube and the podcast channels.
Social
and-
media pages are getting launched,
Yeah.
websites getting launched, landing pages are getting launched, all of that. You guys are technically our audience. You guys are who we're speaking to.
Yep.
Give us your feedback. What were your guys' thoughts about episode or about season 1?
Y'all are small
episode
business
1 through
owners,
6.
and y'all are starting up in this post-COVID world. And everybody, as you talked about, a lot of things have changed. Like that created a lot of opportunity for y'all specifically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're just really curious, like the impact that just filming and being part of our podcast has had on you as individuals and business owners.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what comes to mind, the way we filmed everything, we essentially, I mean, pretty consistently, it was like once a week we were filming an episode, right?
Right.
With a few exceptions, but it was interesting how, like, when we kind of signed on with the project, we weren't necessarily aware of the full scope of what you guys would be talking about, right? It was much more of, this is kind of the format, this is kind of the logistics. We kind of got all the information we needed in order to film, but the content was pretty new for us as you guys were sharing it for the most part.
Yeah.
We kind of knew a general direction, but very general, right?
Yeah.
And so after every episode, it would spark some really interesting conversations that I think we're in a phase of business that I think it's hard for us to necessarily step back and think big picture about our business because we do get very wrapped up in the day-to-day.
You're in the trenches all the time because it's such a work-intensive industry where, all of us, like what we see is you're out there setting up and you're with us 4 hours, but we don't see the 40 hours of work that goes in afterwards.
Sure. Yeah.
And your guys' stage of the business is where we were talking. Right now, what you guys are going through is what Chris and I went through.
Absolutely,
Yeah, so I'm actually curious, what did you guys think about those conversations that we had on those episodes in relation to where you're at now to where you want to be?
Yeah, just kind of a peek into the conversations y'all had. I know we had a lot of what we call debriefs where we sat
someone
down.
had to eat the food.
Yeah, we ate all the food that I prepared and all that, and we had some really fun debriefs and kind of talked about the episodes and stuff. And so we've got a little bit of insight, but I know that some of the conversations are something you got to simmer on. That face value seems really obvious. But after you sat and thought about it and really made it relevant to your life and your scope of business, you're like, wow, there's some profoundness to this that's really useful. And so I'm kind of curious in the conversations we didn't get to see a part of.
Yeah, I think a lot of, for me personally, just giving some vocabulary, right? Just organizing the way you guys set up the priorities of relationships, assets, and revenue. It's just good for us to think about, what does that
my business,
look like in our business, right? We obviously have assets and all this equipment. We've got, our particular industry, I see a lot like the automotive industry, where the tools in order to do it,
you make such an investment.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
and then
those are tough decisions.
Because just like us, the equipment's so expensive.
Right.
It's nothing to drop $20,000 on a piece of equipment.
Absolutely.
And that's just a piece. It's cool, that fixes this problem I had and makes this better.
Right.
But now this is subpar.
Yeah.
And you end up daisy chaining that, and then you got to look at your financials and try and figure out where we can budget this in to where we can level up our actual game, which we can change our rate of service because now we offer a better quality service and things like that. So that's a huge piece of it.
Well, and you're always balancing that, what solves the issue today, but what's going to solve the issue a year from now, right? And how much can I invest in a year from now today? I can get the piece of equipment I need today, but then am I just going to have to buy something else, for the next thing? So,
no, it's Matthew.
Okay, we're good.
Matthew
so I
Matthew.
do think it was really good we just hadn't necessarily talked about where do we, it's almost like we're looking at it, how we're operating, because we're operating just kind of by the seat of our pants. And so a lot of the conversations were like, okay, what do we think about how these guys are prioritizing these categories, right? And then where are we just de facto prioritizing these three things today? Because we just haven't thought about it. It's we're trying to do all these things at the same time. And so, and I think it was pretty quick that we were like, well, with no customers, who cares how much stuff you've got and how much money you're bringing in today?
Oh, wow.
Because without the people, it's all gone.
Right.
It's like you've got a storage shed worth of, awesome film gear that nobody wants you to use. And so it made perfect sense pretty early on to us that this idea of putting those relationships first is a really healthy way to run a business.
So I got some follow-up questions. You mind if I roll with it?
Have at it, man.
Okay, yeah. So what shifts if any, did you guys make during the filming of the podcast as you're hearing this information?
Yeah.
Did you guys make any shifts at all? Even if it's not in the execution of your business, just in the way that you were thinking about the relationship with your customers. Let's be honest, clients.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. How would you answer?
I think, there's already some ways that some of the ideas and vocabulary has kind of worked their way into our business meetings, and in just like Luke's saying, like our looking at the future is like, all right, right now we are up to our ears in work, so it's either, do that and don't expand and, wear ourselves out, or at what point do we, hire outside help? What point do we try to delegate some of this stuff? And like he was talking about with equipment, we look at it and go, all right, we could buy a, $3,000 camera that will get the job done and does a lot of what we want, but really the main one we like using is 6. And so do we go ahead and get that one because it's cheaper and we can get 2? Or do we go, no, we're going to get the 6 and then we're going to build up towards that other one and have what we actually want? And so just kind of working those things out of like what makes sense monetarily and everything. And then, so that's kind of more asset stuff. But then even with our customers, our clients, there's times where something by no fault of their own changes on their part, and we find ourselves either having to ask them for more money or going, that's stupid, we can eat that and keep the relationship, and it looks good on us.
Okay.
And it doesn't, it's not like we're trying to be petty with someone and be like, hey man, that cost us an extra, whatever. And it's going, you know what, this person, we care a lot about them, we have a good relationship with them, we have income from them. Do we really think it's worth putting that in jeopardy because of this or that? And a lot of the times it's like, no. And in fact, we found ourselves sometimes going like, man, we can do that and it won't be that hard and it won't take that much time. And to them, it might be a big deal. To us, it's not. And yeah, we could charge normal, or we could just, whatever, just give it as a gift kind of thing. And those little things
just a
really
value
make
add.
a difference.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the primary operating principle. It's the relationship, folks. Right?
When at the end of the day, we can make decisions based on, and I would say this is one way that it gave us language to what we already value. Right, like I think. I think in a lot of ways we did operate relationships first in many situations.
I think you guys did naturally, but it put it in terms that were recognizable, and it made it a really conscious, intentional act instead of something that was just happening.
Right. Well, and it makes decisions easier.
It does, because
by having it lined out like that.
You've got this weight to scale everything against, and say, you know what, does this match what we're trying to achieve, or is this outside of that? And you can weigh everything against it, and say it's quick, it's go or no go. There's no gray area. It's like, this is either what I'm for or it's not. And if it's not, I'm not going to do it. If it is, now, I love that you brought that up. Let me ask you this, because it sounds like y'all encountered some specific scenarios within your business that you consciously made those decisions and walk through that process. Did you struggle with it? Did you second guess yourself after you made the call and say, man, was that the right decision? Should we have done that? Is this actually the right way? Or did you just go in and it was really easy for you? Because I know what the answer was for me, and I still second guess myself sometimes, but I weigh the scales and I know the answer, but it doesn't always feel good for me. So my question is, does it feel good to you guys every time, or is it something that you have a little bit of an internal battle with?
Yeah, I would say one.
Matthew, hey, Matthew, you do not need to be so loud, please. It's not necessary. You can have fun, but you don't have to be so loud.
Again, we're on my back porch.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so I would say I feel really fortunate that I'm not having to make those decisions by myself. I am 1/3 of Film Hunter Media. Adam is 1/3 of Film Hunter Media. My wife Lee is 1/3 of Film Hunter Media. we all have an equal say in when we encounter one of those decisions.
Right.
And what's interesting is some of them take a lot of conversation.
Right.
And they are really, at times I would say they're easy, and at other times they're really difficult. And I would say even in the past 2 weeks, we've had both of those situations, to where it was like, okay, do we sacrifice this revenue for this relationship? And again, we would have never framed it that way prior to doing this podcast.
Yeah.
But we still would have been battling this dilemma, right?
Right.
It's the correlation. It's not that you lose anything. It's understanding that you're buying relational capital.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or you choose the finances, and if you lose a relationship, you go, okay, well that's
That
fine.
was a relationship worth losing.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
And at the end of the day, there are probably situations that either decision might be the right one,
Right.
But for us,
Interesting.
it was pretty clear here recently, to answer your question on some pretty specific instances that the relationships that we had monetarily were way more valuable than this singular instance where we might take a hit on revenue, but the hit we're taking pales in comparison.
It's negligible.
Yeah. To what this relationship has meant to us, financially being one of those ways, but just building something cool with people that you enjoy working alongside and feeling like you're part of something, right? And we want to keep being a part of it. We want to keep doing it.
And I mean, like y'all said earlier, I mean, we're in this. Not all economies are like Midland, where it's a lot of relationship based, and so almost probably all of our clients actually are because someone talked about us to someone else, or because they know us personally. And so, I mean, it's been very easy to make those decisions and going, gosh, you screw over one person and everyone in town's going to know it.
Yeah.
And your videos can be the best.
Yeah.
It does not matter.
And our
Well, that's interesting. Let me challenge that idea.
Yeah, okay.
Because this is Midland, Odessa. And you brought up in a prior point, this is Midland, Odessa. It's not like this is Hollywood.
Right.
So, you really don't have competition.
We have
Who else is doing this besides you guys here in one of the most lucrative, 80% of energy is produced in the Permian Basin.
Yeah.
Do you guys have competition in the actual media production space?
We do. It is limited, like compared to when you take a city the size of Midland, and if you include Odessa, right, the Permian Basin, you take the size of the Permian Basin, the amount of businesses and money that's here, compared to other places about the same size, the competition is way less, it seems, than those other markets.
That's what I would think.
Right.
So all I'm doing by pushing back on that is saying, hey, if you did screw someone over, you would have a whole line of people that would be ready to take their place, right? So why do you care?
Well, so
again, I'm playing devil's advocate. I don't really believe that.
It's
right?
good.
Yeah.
You won't hurt our feelings.
No,
Right.
I'll tell you what immediately comes to mind is that some of the projects that we are lucky enough to get to do don't have to be done. And if we're hard to work with, and if we're jerks, then it's easy for that client to say, "Well, I don't need the video that bad." It's not a have-to video. It's I'm passionate about this. I want to make this, but I
You
want it
guys
to be
do a lot
fun.
of passion projects.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, and
we do.
let's be honest, what we're doing right here,
This is a passion
this is a
project.
passion
Absolutely,
project. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's your niche.
Yeah.
Yeah, to
Your
some
niche
degree.
is passion
Absolutely.
projects. Okay.
Yeah, and I think, whoa,
That bug just went
That was
right
it.
in your
Right.
eyeball. Dude, I saw that thing go.
Man down.
yeah, I also think that, and I think it's a credit to the area that people just care more about the experience a lot of the times, and you guys talk about this, the experience being such a big deal.
That's become so profound since 2020,
Yeah.
and I think that people are so deprived of relationships from isolation. And like something that I've been pondering a lot, like just in the last month, and I want to highlight it, I know. I know. She's spinning so fast.
And she's on her phone at the same time.
Good
It's
job.
not going to end well.
Super high.
That's the one
at
of
you
yours
go.
that. Yeah, so that's your daughter right there. Does
Yeah.
she like roller coasters?
She likes everything that's crazy. And so anyway, what I was saying is like isolation, like I've been pondering that a lot lately for a number of different reasons. And I came with this really obvious definition of what it is that's so obvious that I think it's overlooked is that isolation is a result of lack of activity. And that's universal. So, I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about a husband-wife scenario. If y'all aren't engaging in something meaningful, then you will isolate from each other. If you are not engaging in public interaction, then you're isolated from the public. Even spiritually, if you isolate yourself from prayer and scripture, then you're isolating yourself from God.
Yeah.
And that that isolation
Seems a pretty universal principle. Yeah,
it is such a universal principle, but I think it's overlooked because it's so obvious. And I think that people felt that during COVID, but they couldn't recognize it for what it was.
Yeah.
And why they felt this longing and this isolation, this depression, this anxiety, and all these feelings was due to this lack of activity that they're used to engaging in, and it created this isolationism that I think created this really strong craving for relationship.
Yeah.
That makes it such a fundamental and important part of business moving forward.
Wow.
Because they've experienced it at the highest level.
Yeah.
That's profound. Normally, I'm the philosophical one. That's good, dude. Yeah. And then, like, okay, so now we're like totally switching hats. I'm just gonna go practical. Here. Here in Midland, Odessa, people, because we live in a bubble, people can afford experience.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what they demand.
Sure.
Yeah. So, man, great answer, guys, and great exposition. That's awesome. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's cool because, like Luke said, a lot of this is stuff that, I mean, I think naturally you should want to operate in this way as a believer. You should naturally want to have those good relationships, and so we are already trying to do that. But I feel like this has kind of given us the tools and lingo to know what we're actually doing, so we can hone it even better. Because really, the cool thing about our business is we become there's a weird closeness. Even though you got a camera between you and whatever person, what you're capturing a lot of the time is kind of intimate. And so, I mean, there's lots of people that this past even 6 months, whatever, that we're like family with some of these people that we do business with. Where, I mean,
right there in my backyard.
We're in your backyard. Our kids are all
playing volleyball.
It's totally.
I love it.
Totally
I
different.
love it.
And relationships are what drive that and make it work.
Man, that's awesome. That's a wrap. That's the whole point of why we had this back. Okay. Well, I have another question for you.
Yeah.
What episode was the most helpful to you guys, and why?
It's not necessarily which episode, but which.
Well, I'm interested. What episode sticks out in the back of your mind?
Matter because they may not remember every episode in sequential.
Yeah, you don't have to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Just what subject matter? Yeah, no, perfect. What subject matter stuck out the most in your mind? And I know I'm putting you on the spot right now.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Part of it is, filming so much in such a small amount of time.
Yeah, it all blurs together.
Yeah, and
guys, it was 17 hours worth of material. Right. That if you added all up together.
2 months total?
Yeah, we did it in 2 months.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but at the same time, I appreciate that clarification because it is easier to think about the
subject
chapters.
matter versus the actual episode. I don't even remember what we talked about on every episode, but I remember all the topics.
Right.
I have the outline on my phone if you guys want me to give you a refresher.
I got one if you want to think a little bit. So one thing that's kind of stuck out to us, and we've had several conversations on this, and it's been an interesting tightrope to walk so far. And I don't even remember if it was a main point, but it was this idea on make sure your customer base reflects like what you want to be as a company as well.
Right.
And
that's pretty early on.
when y'all said that, I
that
feel
was
like
probably
Luke and I.
interwoven into every episode.
I pushed that pretty
I mean, I
heavily.
remember that point, like Luke and I, when y'all first said it, like almost looked at each other like, huh. And because, I mean, our business too, like, it's not we do business with one type of person. Everyone does film in some sort, or media in some sort and fashion. And so, like, it's going, man, all right, is there anyone that we do business with that we don't, like, want people knowing we do business with? Or like, you know, bearing our name
That's a
or
great
anything
question.
like that.
Because we're a megaphone.
Yeah,
Right? Like,
absolutely.
and so what message are we amplifying?
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
so
You would be
even-
that introspective with the material.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're
cool.
now getting into political season, right? And people are wanting ads and stuff, and we had to sit down and go, do we even want to touch that? Because both of us hate politics on both sides most of the time.
On that.
And so it's like, well, gosh, and you know, we joke around using the
Good news is you're in West Texas.
Yeah,
It's conservative
it's
or more conservative.
True.
This person isn't as conservative as I am.
But I mean, it's like going, man, like, at what point do we say no? Like, if someone is like, hey, we'll pay you $100,000 for this easy thing. It's like, but
Interesting.
I don't like you. Like, you're a terrible person.
I don't believe
and
in
do
what you
bad
have to
things,
say.
and we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to give you that platform. And so it's an interesting ongoing. Now that's become a central thing too.
How many
in bringing
political solicitations have you guys got?
Not a bunch.
We just started.
We just started, and
Really?
that's what brought up the
They're
conversation.
kind of late to the game because elections are like in
In
2 weeks.
a few weeks.
And to be honest, we didn't seek after
2
it.
weeks of the filming of this.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not something we necessarily sought after because it was such a complicated thing. And the one candidate that we ended up working with, we got to talk to, we got to meet, and it became I am totally fine supporting this individual.
Right.
And,
Interesting.
and that, luckily, you know, again, we feel really fortunate that was our first experience because
Interesting.
it could have gone a different way, right?
Well, and I
it could have
guarantee-
been a much more.
I'm not going to
complicated
ask you
thing.
specifically who it is. I'm
Sure.
just interested. Is it on the local level or the state level?
Local.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's cool because
So we're talking like city council, mayor type of a deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
We might not have gone, hey, we need to maybe talk to them before we say yes.
Yeah.
But that was like hold on, we need to be careful on this. So let's like reach out and find out who this person is before we do it.
And not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Right. Not go. No, we don't
Interesting.
do political. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
that would have been a disservice to someone that we
Absolutely.
do want to support and be a megaphone for. Right.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, and we don't really, again, this is just coming from someone working on a campaign, but told us like, well, we did a set of ads, and then 2 weeks later, a week later, they're like, hey, we want more. It's doing awesome. Like, way better than we thought.
We got
so we
these
need more.
little,
Mom.
Oh, is that grasshopper?
yeah, the
Yeah.
grasshoppers.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so they wanted more, so we're like, okay, we'll make it happen. Quick turnaround. And at that, they were like, hey, there are people nationally talking about where did you get this commercial? And so we were like, oh.
We don't want to be in the political space.
Yeah, it's like, oh gosh. So we're going to have this conversation even further.
Yeah,
I mean,
once again, weigh it to your personal
Absolutely.
values and say, is this the reflection that I
Absolutely.
want presented of me?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's fair to say, like, Adam and I are very, like, open-minded when it comes to people, and when it comes to, like, it literally does not matter what party you are representing. It matters way more who you are and what you as an individual are representing.
Yeah.
Yeah, how you represent yourself and your views.
Absolutely.
Exactly, and so
Wow, guys.
Because we
it
won't
becomes-
agree with everything with
No,
everyone.
I had no idea that you guys were going through this journey while we were filming the podcast.
That's
This
interesting,
is
yeah.
this is interesting.
But again, it gave us
that's
a lot of
pretty cool.
vocabulary and almost like a ruler to judge things by and judge decisions by that would have been very ambiguous conversations otherwise, right? Like,
Yeah.
if we didn't have just, okay, we want our clients to represent us, right? Just having that really simple statement
Yeah,
like
because
just simplifies everything down to where we can have the conversation that really matters and not have to like go way around to find our way to the answer. I don't know if that makes
business for
sense.
so long has
So
been
like a North Star.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I think that's really valid. Business for so long, I've seen so many businesses that represent their clients, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And as we move into this new age of small business, I mean, there's been tons of small businesses that have started up since COVID, and they're very personal. They're very much a representation of the individual versus just a smart capital investment, which is what business has been traditionally in the past, where, oh, there's profits to be had, I'll do this.
Yeah.
To where people are really personal and passionate, like you guys talked about earlier today, where y'all are both very passionate about video and media in general. And so it makes a lot of sense for y'all to do this. And so you pour your entire self into it because even when you weren't getting paid big bucks, you're still doing it. I mean, it's one of those things that I do for free.
Right. No doubt.
And I think a lot of small business owners are in that same boat and have that same struggle of like, who do I do business with and who do I not?
Right.
And just as you guys are even sitting there bringing it up, I'm not gonna say I didn't put value on it because I absolutely do. I've operated that way for a long time, but it blew it up in my mind even just now, and it really made me think about how we view different businesses. And it's not the businesses that we view that way, it's because of who their clients are. Drug dealers might have an entirely different public view if they had a different client base. I mean, realistic, I know that's extreme.
Interesting.
It's extreme.
Well, it's interesting you would go to that extreme to articulate your point.
But if you think about it, I mean, who do drug dealers serve? They serve drug addicts.
Okay.
I mean,
In another context, that's a doctor.
right.
Yeah. Depends what drug we're talking about here.
want to go political.
I mean, that's super extreme.
That's a fact.
But I mean, that's how I think that a lot of lawyers got bad raps is because of who they chose to represent.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And then others who are like heroes because of
Who they choose to represent.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you end up in a
Interesting.
lot of these different situations where you have this paradox based off of representation of the client, not the business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting, man.
Well,
yeah.
a lot of people just think all money's good money.
It is not. I promise.
Yeah.
Been
And it's
there,
not.
done that. Yeah, I don't care how big the number is, it can still be bad.
So, in discussing the primary operating principle, something we discussed during one of the episodes brought you guys to the point of if we're going to have, if business is an extension of our life, we want to choose who we bring into our sphere of influence, who we want to have relationship with.
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, man, that's cool.
Yeah,
That
because
is
I
really
really
cool.
think
Yeah.
what we primarily do is we, like I said, we're a megaphone.
Yeah.
Almost all of our projects is we're providing a megaphone for someone.
Yeah.
Right.
And so the question is just who is that and what are they saying
Yeah.
and what are we amplifying?
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because I believe that a business is a platform of influence anyway.
Sure.
Every business
Absolutely.
is. Yours literally is based off of the platform of influence.
No doubt.
This is true.
No, that's
Ours
right.
is more
Yeah,
literal,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to imagine. I mean, yeah, I am selective on who I do business with as far as my clients from a financial planning perspective.
Yeah, and I'm selective within my own confines. Like I have my business structured in such a way that it's auto-selective. I don't have to pick my clients. My clients will pick themselves.
Well,
there's
yeah.
people that'll love the way that I do business, and there's people that won't. That doesn't mean I'm doing it wrong. I'm not a good match for them.
I'm not going to lie, guys. To put an exclamation mark on that point, my process actually really does select who my clients are.
And
I don't actually make that decision.
And mine does too. Yeah, I don't have to make that. I don't have to turn people away. My process will naturally accept or reject them within my clients' minds, not my own. And if they're brought in, then I'm already good with them because they're okay with my process. They like and appreciate the process and the work that I put into my process. And the people that want to do business differently don't fit with me, but there's a business out there that does fit with them.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool, we're just not matched for each other. It doesn't mean I'm wrong or you're wrong or good or bad. It's not that complicated.
Right.
It's as simple as we're not a good fit. Go find somebody else. It's not any different than the dating game.
Right.
Because like we said, it comes back to the relationship, and not all relationships are meant to be together. I mean,
Sure. I think that you guys have found a little bit of that, and you guys will continue to develop that because at least you're looking for it.
Right.
Yeah, it's something that you can recognize now and call it out
So
when you
did I
see it.
hear you guys correctly by saying that you're really actually starting to zero in on that since we've had this podcast?
Yeah, and at the very least, I think to talk about it in a totally different way.
That's that
Just a
giving you
different level of
vocabulary.
awareness.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think we would have been more apt to, you know, the political ads, an easy thing to talk about. That's one example, but I think we would have been more likely just to go, you know what, this is complicated, no political ads.
Yeah.
You know, because luckily right now, as a business, we can do that.
Right.
But at the same time, it's a more nuanced, complicated answer, and it's worth entering into the complication because of the value we can provide someone and the value that can provide back to us, you know, those relationships. Because I think anytime that, you know, our TV show project, Keeping Good Company, is a good example where by partnering with that team, like, we've gotten so close to new people that I think has enriched our lives. Like, in a really positive way.
Awesome.
That we wouldn't have had otherwise, right? And so
and that goes back to that relationship, assets, revenue.
Exactly. Now, if we weren't so focused on the relationships, then we might end up pairing up with people that we don't want to be like, you know, and then we don't want part of our lives, and we're like almost opening the door to negative things coming in, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, where you start giving your joy away a chunk at a time.
Exactly. And it totally, it totally infuses
insecurity
everything.
causes that.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Well, and I just realized, I mean, again, with us getting to a point where we are busy-wise, like, we were like, man, we need some help again. And so we met with a young.
That's
man, I'm getting
awesome.
old. I just said young man.
Are you guys going to
we
make
went
him
with a young man,
another owner? So is this going to be like a 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4 now? Or are you
Probably
guys,
not.
Probably
I
not.
think we'll probably stop it at third. But
but I mean, we met with a guy and we were like, yeah, we'll kind of throw some work that way and see how this kind of works out.
That's awesome,
really,
guys.
But the first thing we said as soon as we left, it wasn't like it wasn't us talking about how good he is on his stuff. It was like, I think this guy like fits and jives with like what we care about, and he seems like he's a good guy. He's a
cultural hire versus a skill set hire.
He cares about the values we care about. And then,
cultural. Hang on to
it's
that.
fun
Hang on to that. Cultural.
Can he actually do the job?
Good.
And so again, it's, you know, fostering. Hopefully, we can foster that as our company grows, so that
I
those values
think it's
stay.
necessary. It's so much easier to hire culture than it is to create it after the fact.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and let me say this, because, and this is a good distinction that I think
get me excited.
is part of the influence of these ideas, is that we walked away from that conversation not talking about, is he good enough? As an editor, as a, you know, videographer, whatever. The conversation was, is he a good enough individual?
Yeah.
Right?
I
Like,
love
is
it.
this the type of person we want on our team? Because if that's the point,
Yeah.
it changes the question looking at his portfolio of, okay, are we going to hire him or not based on how good these videos are? The question becomes, how much are we going to need to really teach him so that he gets up to the technical level we need? Because if he's a good enough person, we almost don't care.
Yeah,
like,
we can
it's,
teach him.
I love it.
he can learn it, and we
I
can
hire
teach
that
him.
way. That's
Yeah.
the way I've
Yep.
blown my staff out.
Yeah,
I talk
definitely.
to people.
I was thinking about that.
I talk to people every week because I tripled my staff in 2 months in a business that is 45% understaffed.
Wow.
And everybody's like, where are you finding them? I was like, I'm not hiring the same guys you're hiring.
Yeah.
Because every one of those guys hires off of skill level versus culture. And I hire guys that are motivated, that are coachable, that are excited, that are looking for a future, that want to engage in a relationship and actually appreciate what I have to offer as an owner, as a boss, as me. because I pour myself into my business just like you guys do. And like, are they going to be in a position that they can receive that right now in their life? Because I've had guys that I didn't hire that checked every other box I just listed, but the last one they're not ready for yet. And those are guys that I'm like, I sit down and have that conversation. I call them back a week later and say, man, I'm not going to hire you because I don't think you're ready for this yet, not from a technical standpoint, but because you're not ready to receive what I have to offer. I really hope you call me back in a year or two as you've matured and found yourself and kind of found your lane. And if your lane aligns with my lane, then I really hope you come back, because I think that you'll be a great fit, but you're not ready to receive what I have to offer yet.
Man, your guys' takeaway from our conversations is super encouraging. But hold the phone, because where we're going in this conversation, this is a perfect teaser to season 2. Absolutely. First of all, thanks to your guys' partnership, there will be a season 2. Yes. And the natural progression to what we just unpacked in season 1 is definitely culture. So season 2 will be about culture for all the reasons that we just discussed.
Absolutely. Priority 1, right?
For sure.
Those relationships.
I still have some more questions for you guys, though. But before I go, I want to pass it to you. Do you have a question for them? Specifically about season 1?
I think Adam had a really profound insight that he got out of season 1, and I know Luke was over there thinking about his profound insight. So I want to see what Luke's big takeaway is. I love Adam's. I thought it was great, and I could see that really resonated with both of you, and that's really encouraging. And that, I think it's really awesome. So what was your big takeaway?
You know, I actually, I think it's something I'm still stewing on, right?
Sure.
It's less of a conclusion than a good question. I think it's pretty easy to sell me on the idea that relationships are number 1. And then my brain naturally started going to 2 and 3. Assets and revenue, which is more practical kind of thing, right?
That's the business side of it. Your P&L and your balance sheet.
Absolutely. And so I think there was a lot.
I think I broke that down on season 4. So season 4 was really episode 4. Sorry, duh.
No, that's right.
The drink's getting good. Y'all know how I get buzzed on that second drink. Man. So I think episode 4 is where I was breaking that down.
Right. Yeah. And it just it was interesting to me because again, I love the idea. I mean, people should always be more important than stuff, and people should always be more important than money. Like, it does not take much to convince me of that. I'm there. Right.
Perfect.
And then assets versus revenue was almost a more like a complicated kind of thing to walk.
Interesting. Why?
I think it's more like I guess the questions I ask are without the revenue, how valuable are your assets, right? Like, if your assets aren't what's providing your revenue, then what good are they?
That's I think I can follow that.
Just that internal relationship of how all the gears in your wheel work together.
Exactly.
Well, it's almost like you need the assets to accommodate the relationship, and the revenue will follow. Right.
Right. Yeah. And maybe that's the key is kind of tying assets to the relationship, and that's where the revenue comes from, right? Which makes perfect sense.
Right.
And again, we're in a building phase of our business, and again, assets are a big deal in our industry, much like y'all's. And so it just had me asking a lot of questions about how we invest our money in the tools of our trade, and how to prioritize that, and how big are risks to take in that area. You know, to buy the tool that maybe you're having to stretch to get, that you know is going to like fit the bill for this client, but at the same time, that client might walk. Right.
Well, and might have another client that this benefits as well.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's like I end up in that, like you said, yours is not that different than mine. So like I've got a few vehicles that I can't fix because I don't have the tools, and I might only ever see that car again once or twice, and the cost of the tool doesn't justify the fixing that one or two cars in the next decade. And so it's like, man, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
Right.
And I think this person's a better fit because they've got what you need, and I just can't facilitate it, and it doesn't fit my business model to facilitate it.
And ours might be more like, a socket wrench versus like a pneumatic tool.
Right.
Where it's kind of like the customer on the back end, it's all the same, right? It's like you get your tire put on, right?
Yeah.
And really what changes is how efficient were you able to do it? How quickly were you able to do it? How much time did you have to invest in order to pull it off? All those kind of questions. I would say we're at the level where those are more the questions we're trying to weigh. Rather than what does the end product look like for the client, we're pretty confident we can provide what the client wants.
Yeah, you can fulfill with what you got, but how can we make it more cost effective?
Exactly.
How can the quality's going to be there regardless, but how can we reduce our cost of production?
Right, and how do you find out where that turnover point is? Right, like at what point
you do a cost analysis.
We don't need a $35,000 camera.
To an extent,
right? Yeah.
It's a little bit more difficult to answer than that.
Well, I mean, I still do cost analysis to an extent.
I get where the internal struggle is.
Sure.
I totally understand what you're saying.
Well, and
for you guys, for me, what it translates to isn't so much in the accumulation of a tool to accomplish a task. For me, it's all about time, because that's how I make my money, right? And so I actually, since we started filming this season, I don't have one junior partner, now I have two. And instilling into both of them, which to their credit, they have totally embraced and they have totally gravitated to. And that is taking the time and investing in people's problems pro bono. These people don't pay us. I can't tell you how many relationships on the front end of my business that I poured into that didn't pay me anything, but they were worth it just simply because of the learning experience.
Right. Yeah.
And then, so like when you made that statement, that you're going to invest in a tool, then for this specific client task or activity, and they may walk.
Right.
That's exactly where my mind went to.
Right.
Like nothing may ever come from this relationship, but what have I learned now on this person that has assets that are, maybe I've got an account that's $5,000.
Yeah.
Or $50,000.
Right.
But what I learned on this one, I now can take these principles, even if I fail.
Right.
I can take what I learned and apply it more efficiently at the $500,000 or the $5 million client.
Right, because the fundamentals improve, and I mean that's something I hear a lot of like pro level coaches talk about. Is what makes a pro is that they've mastered the fundamentals. It's not that they do all the extra stuff and a basketball player can dribble this much better or whatever. It's that their fundamentals are mastered beyond everybody else's level, and that's so profound that it's not all the glitz and glamour. It's that the core of what they do it the best.
And this cannot be overstated. Yes, I paid a cost at the front end, but you can see that I attained something. Right. I was serving my self-interest, but that client's self-interest was served at the same time. I went deeper in that relationship than any financial advisor would have went. Are you kidding me? That's a $5,000 account. Why the heck are you spending that much time? That's a waste of time.
Yep.
Right? So he got an experience that was amazing, even if it didn't work out. And even if I failed, I was able to show, hey, this is what you don't do and why. You know, right. Like I was able to go deeper there. So
right. Well, and you're running a risk by that, right? Because if every one of your clients was that, you might go out of business.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And maybe that's like what I like about this kind of primary operating principle is if I'm going to go out of business. Because I might go out of business anyway, right? I might as well go out with my values intact.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Looking myself in the mirror as a man. Yeah.
Man, I don't care. Like, that's fine. I did it. You know what's the Sinatra? Like, I did it my way.
I did it my way, bro.
And that's I wouldn't have done it
it either worked or it didn't. Right. And I feel good about it. I lived and died by my own will, my own way, my own values. Yeah. And either the world was ready for it or it wasn't.
Sure.
And of course, in all of our situations, the world's ready for it.
But isn't it amazing how you succeed wildly? Like you throw yourself out there, and the person can be listening to what we're saying, and they can be totally scared by what they just heard. Like, I can't believe you would do that if there's a risk of failure. But did you just hear what we have here? We have tremendous success.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, by not worrying about those things that are going to serve us in the temporary. By delaying gratification and sacrificing and giving to the other party, the other side of the table on the front end, we're actually served better on the back end, right? By focusing on relationships.
Something I'm going to throw into that piece of the conversation that I think is valuable for anybody watching is we're not willy-nilly going out and risking our businesses or our necks on this stuff.
These are strategic risks.
The risk is calculated.
Right. Calculated.
And I think that's a valuable insight. The question I have for you, Luke, on specifically about where your struggle is and how do I invest in my business, how do I grow it from this angle to contribute this, and something you didn't necessarily touch on, but I know that I struggle with early on in business is how much is the image of what you have important versus the actual value of the item, and how does that get in the way of your decision-making process? Because sometimes, when I first started, I wanted big fancy stuff because it made me look legitimate, but it didn't make me actually any better. And honestly, looking back, I realized there was no value in that image because most people really didn't care. They want to know whether I could get it done or not. But I had that personal internal struggle starting out, is like, what are people going to think of what I have?
No, and that's a really good question, and a big topic in our field.
Absolutely.
Because cameras have come to a place where, like, you can show up with what looks like a point and shoot. And you can have two cameras side by side that to the common person look identical, and there's a $10,000 difference in these two things.
These three cameras to me look identical, just so you know.
What's funny, what's interesting
Chris is way more versed in this than I am, but these three cameras look exactly like, so which one's the most expensive?
So if you were to zoom in, these are twice the size, twice the size of the screen here, and a third of the price of that little tiny one.
Right there. Really?
Yeah, and it's things you can't see on the outside, right? It's
interesting.
It's worth that. And those are worth what they're worth, and that's
interesting.
But at the same time, I totally have had clients that I walk in with something like that I've invested heavily in, and they look at me like, who's this guy? Like, I thought I hired a real deal. I'm paying a real deal of money. And luckily, we've been fortunate enough that when we provide the final product, that conversation's over. And as long as we can keep doing that, I'm okay with it. But what's funny is we sometimes will go, hey, do we need this piece of equipment today? And we go, no, not really. Like, it doesn't hurt us, but we don't need to use it. And then the question goes, well, like, will it help us in any way? And sometimes client optics is a real thing. Like, if we put this on here, it looks like we really know what we're doing. And we do know what we're doing. And so if this helps reflect us in a more realistic light, like we do know what we're doing, and this helps us say that without having to say it or prove it on the back end, then we might throw it on the camera, you know?
Interesting.
And, you know, in one sense, it can easily kind of feel dishonest, but at the other, it's like we really want our clients to feel confident in us. And it helps the final product if they are confident in us. And that was harder early on when we didn't have a lot to show. And, you know, like the ballet thing, we had nothing, you know, and so like the cooler our rigs looked, the better we were, you know. It's one of those things where it really was like, I know we can do this, but I want them to feel like we can do this.
Because customer confidence is key, because people don't want to write big checks unless they have that full confidence. I mean, that's the most important part of sales, is that they're confident that you can provide the solution that you're looking for, and if you can't achieve that level of confidence, the sale doesn't happen. I mean,
okay, so we may have time for one more question.
Yeah. Sure.
Because I don't even know where we're at, but we're probably at that 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Time always flies by.
Normally,
with us,
we're
right?
very
In
on.
case you were wondering,
Yeah,
what
we're
our-
normally timing it behind the camera.
Yeah. In case you're wondering what our debriefs look like after each one of those
Yeah,
episodes,
this is what it looks
this
like.
is it was basically another podcast episode
Right.
while we were eating all that delicious food, which is exactly the inspiration of why we wanted to bring you guys this backstage episode. So before I bring it to the conclusion, the climax with teasing season 2, probably about one more question, and
Yeah.
I think it would behoove us to ask about we focus so much on the relationship focus, just like we did.
I
just like we
wanted,
did
I
on
wanted to know
season
the
1.
same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So what's the thoughts on automation?
Ooh, yeah.
What thoughts did you guys take away from
Man,
that?
you know, and it's tough too because you say that and it goes, oh, that's how I should have answered the other question. But we've talked a lot about automation, and even in our debriefs, I don't know if you guys have noticed, we bring that up a lot.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Well, I don't know. What I was about to say is it's really hard to automate a lot of what we do, and that's not necessarily true. What we do has many
I would
steps
actually
to
challenge
it.
that. We have automated a lot.
Sure. Yeah. And that's why I kind of pause. And there are certainly things, but the steps that we need the most help in are the hardest to automate. Maybe that's a better way to say it.
Okay. How so? Let's understand that.
So we spend the average video takes about 30 minutes to an hour to edit 1 minute of content.
Wow.
And so and so if you consider,
is that the rule for our podcast too?
No, I mean
Podcast's a little bit different.
Podcast is
because they're a little more natural.
format
there's not a lot of
conversation.
angle.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's different.
right, and
But like the ballet or
Exactly. The TV show.
the
Things with multiple
PBS
scenes.
and all
Yeah.
of that. Wow.
Yeah.
Documentaries.
Yeah,
and
wow.
what's tough is when we're editing, we can't be doing the relationship aspect.
Right.
We can't be interfacing with clients. We have to limit our meetings, right? We can't be doing this because Adam and I specifically have to be sitting in front of a computer with our phone off, zoned in to moving clips around, you know, and
I want you to
Makes
continue.
sense.
I just want to take this opportunity to highlight that you're validating our comment and theory that automation's necessary in order to improve the relationship, and that y'all's relationships are hindered by your current unavailability to automate some of those time-consuming processes.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, I think there's a lot of correlations to automotive field where you can automate a lot of the things, get the best tools, and you still need someone who knows where
What
to
they're
put
doing.
the thing and
Yeah.
how to do it. And
Yeah, there's
so-
certain parts you just can't automate.
right, and then you need good people.
Yeah, and I mean, I think adding to your team is a part of automation.
Absolutely.
So, like, cool, I want to focus on the relationship
Absolutely.
as Luke and
Good point.
Adam. So let me have let's find somebody, bring them into the team,
Right.
and that is our automation solution.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
like we talked about,
Yeah.
automation isn't
Yeah.
a push button thing that it
Yeah.
goes and cranks it out.
Yeah.
It's simply forming a process or a system that allows you to step away from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys actually considered that?
That's basically where we are right now. That's why we had that
okay,
conversation
okay.
with that young man. It's now sitting down and figuring out, all right, what are the numbers where we can pay someone else to do this portion, and then we can give them direction, we can get it back, maybe tweak some things, give them notes or whatever, but they're spending the majority of the time creating our vision, right? And now we have that time free to
love
go out
it.
and be with clients, to go out.
Their business is about to take off into the
Yeah.
freaking
Well,
stratosphere.
there's times when we sit and we go, gosh,
Yeah.
we haven't even talked about our business, and it's been a week. And I'm like, that's not okay as business owners. Like, we should
Yeah.
maybe be talking about our business. And it's because we're in the details. And so it'd be like you having your shop and you're always under the hood and
Right.
never actually handle it.
right,
And so,
right.
that's-
That's perfect.
That's that timeless adage of you need to be working on the business instead of in the business.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again,
That's exciting, guys.
It is exciting, and we
yeah,
see it that way. Like, it's easy for us to get frustrated by it, and then we stop and go, "This is awesome! Like,
Yeah.
this is amazing!
This is
Yeah.
it's
How lucky are
You
we,
guys
man?"
are playing at a different level now.
Yeah, even if it's just here right
isn't a
now,
job.
you're forming
This
a
is
vision
now
of what
a
you
business.
can be.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and we love it too, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm sure you want to get under the hood on occasion where you're like, man, you know what? I'm tired of like P&Ls and I'm tired of all these things. I'd love to just go wrench on something.
And occasionally I get
Occasionally,
out there,
most of the
but
time, he just wants to be the boss and sign deals and make sales. That's what this guy
yeah,
wants
I
to do.
mean, I've
Yeah.
spent so much time under the hood at this point that like I don't have that same passion for the action anymore, and like I'm not saying that'll ever die for you guys, but for most people, it just gets to a point where it's not as fun. You'll have new passions that develop because you get opportunities for new experiences, and you're like, I like this experience better than what I've been doing. I want to do a lot more of this, and then your problem is presented for the first time. Now I need to focus a lot of effort and time into developing this solution so I can go achieve this goal, and then line those steps out and go and tackle it.
Right, and what you actually want is to go and not wrench on anything, you know, at work and really run a successful business, and then go home to your personal, you know, 65 Mustang, and that's what you're wrenching on. For fun,
You're exactly right, man. Whenever
and we have those dreams.
whenever I get a house and I have
Tell us about those dreams.
I have a big shop, like that's exactly what I want. I want a shop with a lift and all my tools moved into my personal shop, so that way I can have a project that whenever I get that itch, I can go scratch it in my own time on something that's for me, that I'm passionate about, and start working on my dream instead of somebody else's dream.
Okay, so I get what you just said there. All right, so make that connection and bring us home. So as you automate and bring this guy in, potentially, how does that change the dynamic of the relationship with your craft as owners?
Yeah, so, you know, when it comes to video, film, storytelling, you know, it is very much a passion that we have luckily been able to turn into a business, right? And so and from the get-go, what we said was we would love to be able to offer people a service that provides them what they need and what helps them out. And then we also have our own stories to tell. Yeah. You know, we have our own versions of this podcast. And it's not for a profit. It's all, like, Adam has hundreds of scripts, and every one of them that I've read are incredible. And I want to go make them, and not with any like end goal in mind, except to bring something out of his brain and out of my brain and make it
offer it to the world.
Yeah, exactly. And if it makes some money, then that's cool, and who cares? You know.
Yeah. Well, like we said earlier, we're making people's passion projects, and that's awesome. But at the same time,
you have your own passion
we
projects.
want to also make our passion projects.
Yeah.
And bring along everybody for the ride.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
yeah, man.
And when we think about adding to our team, it's not just so that they can do the work while we're having fun. It's because we want more people to be able to dream and put together things and build something with. You know? And it's a construction crew that maybe we all build a house together, and then we can go do something else, you know, together. And that's really kind of building a community, you know, around the business.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I think we really are passionate about doing, and telling those stories that we want to tell.
That's super awesome.
And it's fun helping other people tell their stories too. You know, I don't want to like diminish that at all. And we happen to have our own stories and the ability to tell those too. And so we want to do that too. You know, we want it all. Like, we want to do both of those things.
I'm with you. I mean, I love helping make people's days better by fixing their cars, because that's a miserable circumstance when you're broke down. I mean, I know you're a client of mine. You've become a client of mine. And like, that's really fulfilling to know that like I've made a difference in your day-to-day lives. Like,
you're a client of mine, you're not. We need to fix that. Just kidding.
And,
we those new $5,000 clients.
I agree. I mean, that's really fulfilling. But I mean, there's cars that I want in my collection that like I want to build for myself.
Right. Yeah.
Guys, that's a perfect place to end at. Luke, Adam, Film Hunter Media. If anyone listening to this podcast wants to get a hold of you and see what you're doing, throw out your social media, throw out your website. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so filmhuntermedia.com. That's kind of our website, and that has kind of all the links for the social media and things, and so that's kind of the easiest way to kind of get in touch with us and see what we're up to.
So I guess we can end off by teasing season 2.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Let us
All
know.
right, y'all want to do that?
Yep. So season 2, we are taking it out of.
Don't give too much detail, man.
Well, we are taking it out of the backyard.
Yes, we're no longer in your backyard. It's been fun, but we
It's
need to
been
change the
awesome.
venue.
It has been fun, but we're going to clean this thing up. This is a business podcast. We're going to make it a little bit professional, and we are moving the filming venue to the Executive Lounge.
All right.
100% for sure we're going to do that, just so people know the Executive Lounge is something that was just created. So,
It's been under construction for how long?
oh gosh. So hard
Just
to find
twist
good
that
help in this town. It really is.
But it is
So yes,
done.
I have been supervising this project. I don't know, just
Talk about
we had to
passion
tell
project,
people
right?
like this is my lounge. Like, can I tell people that? Okay, this is my lounge.
Yeah, this is Jason's Executive
This
Lounge.
is the Executive Lounge. It's where I meet clients. It's kind of a cool little conference room slash
Podcast
coffee
venue,
shop.
coffee shop.
yeah, I mean, this is going to be super cool. I'm excited to bring us there. Season 2 is going to add a completely different dynamic. That's actually what I want to talk about more than the venue.
Well, I
is
wanted to
the
talk about the
dynamic.
venue, but yeah, the dynamic's going to be different as well.
Is there anything else you want to talk about the venue before we switch to the?
No, man, I just wanted to say we're not going to be on the back porch. We're going to be in
But
the
your back porch
Executive
was
Lounge.
cool.
It was cool. I thought it was great for
alright.
season 1. I think that it really is a good representation of who we are and what we're trying to
Yeah.
accomplish, and that it's real.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, we're leveling up, baby.
that's what we're about.
We're
because,
leveling up.
Yeah, growth is growth, man.
Yeah.
We
Executive
grew
Lounge.
off the back porch.
Yes. We're going to do it at the Executive Lounge, and man, the format of it is going to change. I really think we're going to go back, and again, don't hold us to this. This is really just, we're talking to you guys in real time about ideas that are on our minds and where we feel like where we're at with how, I mean, really from a place of our heart, but it doesn't mean it's actually going to materialize this way, right? So, but I really think we'll have other seasons where we go to a back porch, whether it's a party at the patio or it's just a straight intimate back porch conversation between you and me, because I think these are great backstage.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want to do a backstage at the Executive Lounge.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, I want to do a backstage here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love the fact that they're seeing our kids play right now. It's an excuse for us to
Hey,
take.
Matthew, don't be over there by the cameras.
Yeah, you'll knock that camera
Come on,
over.
y'all go back out there.
So on that
I
note,
don't
it's a
care.
great,
Back
it's
out
a
there,
great
please.
detour for us out of our busy lives to be able to come together. We haven't seen our wives for the last 2.5 hours. They're socializing there in the dining room, right? Like. And then on top of that, it's an opportunity for us to bring our kids into this thing that we love so much. So yeah, like we'll have, back porch will always be special.
Right.
Executive Lounge, though, I really want to target something with this conversation. This venue deserves a conversation on culture. So we're going to tease the title for season 2, and that is going to be culture, conversation,
And coffee.
and, well, let's change it. Let's do coffee. Let's do coffee, culture, and conversation. When you go back on this episode, hold me to this when you guys are doing it.
We've just solidified it.
Okay, good. Because I knew I had it right in my hand, but I've had a couple drinks. But it's culture.
Coffee, culture, conversation.
Coffee,
The words
culture,
get
and
angry, it's like,
conversation. Yeah,
I like that.
and it's going to be great. I teased in the first episode of season 1, and it was a risk for me to say this. But if you guys go back on episode 1, I teased the fact I was working with a senior financial advisor in creating an alliance. We're actually going to merge companies. And we don't know the extent of what that looks like, but we're more on board now than what we were when we started. When we started, we were just feeling each other out. Now we're actually merging. And this will be a timely conversation as we start season 2. He and I are and this is going to be really complicated, but we're actually going to be building this out. And for the first time ever, it's going to exceed just being one financial advisor's business and another financial advisor's business. This is going to be an alliance that we're going to bring junior partners into that we're going to mentor. We're going to build out an office staff. So culture for us is timely. And I really want to take season 2. And really, to be honest, guys, what I want to do is not turn this into a reality TV show as much as I kind of just want to do what this show is called, Mastermind. What a better way to take season 2 and mastermind this great endeavor that we're actually going into. And we're going to build culture from the ground up, and I want to take our audience on that ride.
Yep.
And so that entire season's conversation will be an exercise in us building out this thing that we're building in real time.
And are we going to be bringing some guests on to season 2?
Well, that's the plan, right?
Yeah, so we're going to have some additional guests. We're going to grow this thing. We talk about growth a lot, growing our businesses, growing our personal lives, growing our experience. And so in natural fashion, we're going to grow our podcast. And we're so big on relationships that means that we need to bring other people in. So we're going to have guest speakers come into the next season. We're going to have some other people brought in that are going to help flush this out.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, so we can go on this. Yeah, and I kind of want you to take lead on this, man. So, like, we'll I don't know, like, not The Apprentice, because, like, no one's getting fired, but kind of like the
fired.
Yeah, kind of like now again. I say this on a backstage episode. My future partner doesn't know about this. I haven't pitched this to him yet. He hasn't said yes.
Hopefully you have before this episode comes out.
Or you're editing this
no one will ever see it anyway.
If you're watching this right now, he said yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair. Or we're not valuing relationships.
But man, if
he must have went to Jared's.
If he and I can sit down, really what I want to say, he and I are sitting down and we're kind of pitching what we're looking to accomplish. And dude, I really want you, and we're entertaining, this is all we're going to say, we're teasing the idea of entertaining bringing someone else on. Yep. And I want you two to take the lead on curating us through this experience, because what's going to happen is you're going to have 2 people from the financial service sector that's looking to embark on this endeavor, and then you have people from other fields that are speaking into ours, helping design culture. And the challenge is going to be for you, my friend, if you choose to accept, right? If not, this message will self-destruct in 5 seconds, right? But what the challenge is for you and potentially our other guest host is going to be, how can you guys successfully lead us through doing what we want to do?
Right.
Does that sound exciting?
Yeah, man. I mean, I love that. Like, coaching has always been a passion of mine, especially business coaching. I love helping people grow their business, and like, I'm in a sector, but like, I've got a lot of different experience. I've been running other people's businesses and my own for a decade. So I've seen a lot of different things. I've got a very unique background and a lot of insight. And so it's a passion of mine to help other people grow and succeed. And I've got a lot of insight that I think is going to benefit you in your endeavor. And I'm just happy and blessed to be a part of it.
So we're going to have like 4 people on the couch for sure. Me, hopefully my friend, and then Chris, and hopefully our co-host. But we could have up to 5 to 6 people during these conversations.
Yeah, and I've met with several business owners in recent weeks that I've connected with that are in completely different sectors than anything we've talked about, in different industries, that are super excited to come on and be a part of the conversation.
So I'm just excited to see how you guys are going to break down the different components of culture and who you're going to bring in on the couch to break down and talk about each one of these topics. It's
Absolutely.
going to be exciting. And we're going to truly do what this podcast is named. It's Midland coming together to mastermind, baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
Just business owners coming together to get better together.
Yeah.
Whoever
Next year's
thought-
finale, you're gonna have a whole circle here.
Oh, I know. We're gonna have to get an event
I'm going to have to buy some
center.
more lawn furniture.
We gotta start talking about our assets.
Like, so, who all here likes real estate?
Well, we're looking forward. Thanks for including us on this, man.
Yeah,
It's fun.
man.
Thank
It's
you.
really
It's
awkward
tons
being
of
on this
fun.
side of the camera, but it's exciting and fun. So
Yeah, and
Yeah.
man, you get used to it. Like the first couple episodes, I won't lie, were really kind of awkward, and I was really self-conscious. And
Yeah.
And now I don't even. It's whatever.
that's awesome.
And honestly, it's been a huge confidence booster to walk through that because, like we were talking about, just how your equipment presents you to your clients. Like we have this image of ourselves, but like I feel like we stick so hard to that like sometimes it's fake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you resist the natural urge because it doesn't fit into your natural image of yourself. And I feel like that being on camera has helped me express myself more fully off the camera
Interesting.
because I've gotten that confidence that's like, you know what, if I can put it on camera and share it with the world, why can't I just do this in the day to day?
Yeah.
And for me, it's been a huge confidence booster.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Well, you guys have helped us make Midland exciting. Mastermind Midland. And we're going to continue to make Midland an exciting place for entrepreneurs for seasons to come. I think this is a great place for us to wrap up. Matter of fact, I think us dads should challenge these kids to a game of volleyball and see what happens.
Spike it in their face.
Yeah.
With that being said, thank you guys so much
Thanks
for being
for
a part of
watching.
season 1. Exciting wrap up. Thanks. Big shout out to Film Hunter Media.
Yes.
And God bless, and we'll see you for season 2.
That's a wrap.
All right,
And
that's
a
a wrap.
party.
That's it.